We are here alongside Ryan Pineda, former professional baseball player, entrepreneur, real estate investor. Ryan, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. It's been quite a few years, about 9 years or so since you played professional baseball against a team that I work for. So we met way back when, and you signed a couple cards for me. So it's been incredible to see what you've been able to do and grow your brands, your businesses, and be able to give back to the next generation and help other people achieve their goals. So for you, the first question I have, a lot of players out there, a lot of athletes are trying to figure out what's next. How do I, once retirement looms and that's coming up, how do I make that transition into a new career? So for you, what advice would you give to the people out there, whether it's players after college or guys who might have been playing in the minor leagues or even the big leagues who are trying to figure out what they want to do, identify that, and then pursue it and be successful in it?
I think that when we're all playing baseball or sports in general, we don't want to think about the backup plan. I certainly wasn't, especially early on in my career. Wasn't thinking about it in college. Wasn't thinking about it, the first few years in pro baseball. But you really start to think about it as, you sense your career is, not going where you want. And so, for me, I thought about it when I first got released by the Oakland A's, and I was 3 years into my professional career. I thought my career was over. I didn't think I would go play another 5 years in indie ball, but that was when I was really like, wow, what am I going to do with my life? Like, I'm going to have to figure something out. And so, obviously, entrepreneurship ended up working out for me, but even when I was in indie ball the next 5 years, I was really like preparing for life after. I was starting to read business books, real estate books. I was already starting to run my business as a side hustle, and I was flipping couches and I was flipping houses later on while I was playing. And so I was doing both. And I don't think that that's uncommon for most athletes. I mean, most athletes are doing side jobs and other things, in the summer or in the off season or whatever the case is until they got to go and play. So I don't think it's uncommon. I think that people just probably need to take those careers a little more serious. And I also think that, man, today it's just a different ball game, pun intended, than it was when I was playing 10 years ago. I got drafted. Man, it's crazy. Actually, I was just thinking about that. I got drafted almost 15 years ago. And so you think about that, like there was no YouTube. You couldn't be a YouTuber. You couldn't be a media guy. You couldn't, nobody was talking about flipping houses and all these ways to make money online and everything else. So now I don't think people really have an excuse. Like the information is out there for how you can go make money on your own. So I just think you have to really start learning whatever that's going to be for you.
And there's so many uncertainties when you're a player growing up, when you're playing the minor leagues, and you're not sure what the next thing will be, what will happen if you're going to get released or if a team's going to trade you. Similar to business, I'm sure, where you never know what's going to happen. So how did you deal with those uncertainties and the reality of business and the business of sports too?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's any job, that's any career. There's uncertainty. I mean, right now there's uncertainty with even everything I've done to this point. My business could go under tomorrow. YouTube could cancel me. Like, dude, it's always uncertain. So I don't think that uncertainty is something to fear. It's just accept it. It just is what it is. And just know for sure, at least in terms of sports, your career will end at some point. As an entrepreneur, I don't think my career is ever going to end. Like my current business might end at some point, but something else is going to happen. I'm going to keep going. I'll create something new. There will be some new opportunity. So I know I'm going to be an entrepreneur the rest of my life, but I knew that baseball was something that I wasn't going to do it forever.
When you're playing and you have coaches who are giving you different ideas, hey, try this, try that, it's sort of like business too, where I'm sure people are coming to you with different ideas that they have and concepts. How do you decide what to focus on, what you think this is a priority, and maybe a couple other ideas I could put on the back burner for now? Because some things you might think are great ideas, but it's just not the time yet for them. How do you decipher between those great ideas that we need to focus on and prioritize and the ones that maybe will put on the side for the time being?
Yeah, for me, faith is a big part of what I do. And so prayer is always a factor. And so for me, it's like, if I don't, first off, I'm going to pray about it. Second off, if I don't feel good about it just spiritually, then I'm just not going to do it. And if I do, then I'm going to do it. And starting a business and everything in life has the odds stacked against you, right? I mean, you're playing baseball. It's like, what are the odds you get to the big leagues? Extremely slim. What are the odds you even get a D1 scholarship or you get drafted? They're all slim, and yet, I've constantly beat the odds my whole life. And business is no different. 4 out of 5 businesses fail. And so you kind of have to just be willing to have faith that the odds are against you, period, doing anything successful, and be okay with it. I'm completely fine knowing that the odds are stacked against. Now, me in particular, they may not be stacked against based on my skills, my reputation, my track record, my relationships that I have today. So maybe if I go into something, I'm like, actually, there's a really high probability in success. Like, it actually is going to be more likely I succeed than not succeed, just based on where I'm at today. But, it's not always like that. And so, at the end of the day, the odds are usually not with you, and you just got to have faith that you're still going to beat the odds. You got to kind of be a little delusional.
They always say that baseball players are pretty delusional people. Everyone thinks they're better than they are. It's, it is what it is. But I'd like to ask you about your faith as well. And you obviously talk about some topics that many people in business and in the world say, maybe you shouldn't talk about that when you're running a company, whether it's politics or religion, whatever it is. How has your faith strengthened you? And do you feel like that can help with relationships and building relationships in the world?
Yeah, I mean, for me anyways, I grew up in the church. And so even when I was out playing, as a Batboy, every Sunday we had chapel and we had all these cool things. And so, faith has always been a part of what I've done. But yeah, it's absolutely allowed me to have great relationships. I was with a guy who's pretty big on social media now. His name's Dan Martell. He's also a Christian. And he asked me that. He was like, dude, how do you think you've built so many relationships in such a short period of time? Because I know a lot of athletes. I know a lot of business people. I know a lot of pastors. Like, it's this really diverse set of people that I know. And I think, I just said, I think it has all to do with faith. Like, at the end of the day, Jesus called me to, and he called all of us who call ourselves Christians to, love and serve other people. And so I just kind of think about that mindset of everything I do. And so, for example, when you reached out, I don't take every podcast that, asks. I just don't have enough time in the day. But, I just felt like, man, okay, here's a young kid who I remember him as a bat boy. He's trying to make it. Like, man, let me go out and just serve him and try to help him out the best I can. Like, there's nothing really to gain from doing this. But that's just kind of how I approach all my relationships.
For the kid who might be on a high school team or a college team and maybe they aren't surrounded by many Christians, maybe it's difficult for them to fit in, or they're seeing their teammates making some poor decisions after games or on the weekends, how can they still do what they want to do and lead the way and be the person, the leader they want to be and need to be, and still try to find a way to help their teammates and help them grow, even if they might be a little bit reluctant and it might be difficult for them in that environment?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's interesting. I grew up in that space, so I've seen everything you can imagine on the road. People just being crazy and having fun and thinking life is just whatever. And it's funny. It's like, people get older now that I'm 35. I see a lot of those people far more mature today than they were, at 21. And you think, it's like, dude, we just got drafted. We're 21 years old. Like, we're idiots. And so I just think that most people just aren't mature yet. They haven't gone through enough life. They haven't gone through enough pain to realize how important faith is. And they will over time. And, I think with the young kids, it's important to just know that, man, a lot of the pain could be avoided if you had faith and you just did things the right way. I think a lot of those guys live with regret they could have made it to the bigs or wherever else, but they squandered their opportunity due to bad choices. And I know for me, I have a ton of peace about my baseball career, more than most, because I know I didn't squander it, you know? I just wasn't good enough. Like, I can live with that. I can live knowing I gave it my all. I didn't do stupid crap. I didn't get suspended. I didn't, not show up prepared because I was out drinking the night before. None of that was the case. And I can live with the fact that, okay, I wasn't good enough. It's all good. I can live with that. So I think a lot of guys, that they're going to regret it later, and so for the guy who is trying to do things the right way and be obedient to what God's calling them to do, I would just say, be an example. That's all you can do, right? Love them, serve them, show by your actions, not by just your words. And that's what people are going to learn to respect.
Great stuff. Was there ever a time where you felt like nothing was working? Like whether you're on the baseball field and you're trying to make an adjustment, something's just not clicking, or in business, you're just trying to figure something out. It's just not going as planned. And it's really almost impossible to try to figure out a way to get to the next point. Have you ever felt that way? And how do you mentally navigate something like that when it just feels like nothing is going your way?
Man, there's going to be seasons of that in your life. I mean, like, at the end of the day, you're going to feel like there are times where nothing is working, and you're just in the season of life where, it's just one thing after another. I've been there, man. I mean, I've been there where, in my career, I was a 28th round draft pick. So it's not like I had priority, in the organization. And I remember sitting there, not getting playing time, just angry at the world. And I had better statistics, but a guy was a second round pick. And it's like, what are you going to do? And so, I had to learn how to deal with things that were out of my control, and learning to just control what I could control and be ready for when I did get an opportunity. And so there's a lot of things in life like that where it's out of your control. All you can do is respond. But that is one of the reasons why I gravitated towards entrepreneurship, because, you have the ability to do the things you want to do. I'm not at a job where I'm being passed up for a raise or a promotion or whatever. Like, no, I'm in control of my destiny as far as, it goes with running businesses. And obviously God's in control overall, but, it's just like this thing where I would rather, at least have a little more control than otherwise.
Do you try to detach from the results at all when you have successes, and you try to detach from that a little bit because you don't want to get too high? And then same thing with the lows. When things are a little bit more difficult, you don't want to take it too personally and then go back home to your family and just be miserable. You want to try to find a way to detach. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I think that we've done, that in sports. I'm grateful for sports teaching me those lessons. Like, dude, if you don't get over it, you ain't gonna be good the next day. You're still pissed about the day before, the error you made, the strikeouts. You got to get over it. And so I don't know. Some people call me a robot because I'm pretty detached from the results of, oh man, today sucked. Well, let's make some adjustments. I'm not gonna cry about it. And the problem is most people cry about it, and they just don't know how to deal with failure. Whereas I look at it like, all right, didn't work. Let's try something different, because that ain't the way. Oh, it worked. Cool. Let's ride the hot streak. Let's do it. But I'm not going to, celebrate because something worked and then beat up myself because it didn't.
Is that just a flip of a switch, you think? Or do you think that comes with experience and just learning the hard way sometimes? I wonder how different people come to that realization.
Well, I think it's not natural. I mean, you have to train for it. You have to just develop it over time. And so, as I said before, for me, I learned it in sports, and I don't know that I would have been able to learn it just in business. I'm sure I would have maybe over time, but I think about a lot of what God put me through in my life. And it's like, man, I spent majority of my 20s grinding it out, making $1,200 a month, in the minor leagues. And then now, I think about my problems then, physical, being in long distance from my wife, not knowing if I was going to get released the next day, like all the stress that comes with that, making no money, pursuing a dream when the odds are so stacked against you. And I just think about what it developed in me when I was done. And when I was done, it was like, dude, that was way harder than what I do now. You kidding me? Like, this is easy. And it just develops perseverance. And so I think that people need to embrace hard times. And, that's what the book of James teaches us. James chapter 1, the very first thing, he's talking about, he's like, yo, rejoice in all of your trials because, at the proper time, you're going to develop perseverance because of it. And, let perseverance finish its work in you so that you may become mature and complete, not lacking anything. And so it's like, man, if I just rejoice in my trials, I know that the reward is developing perseverance, and that's going to make me more mature. And so people need to learn to embrace trials, not run from them, not let them make them fold and, whatever the case is.
Ryan, before I let you go, you have any tips or tricks for someone who's putting a little bit too much pressure on themselves? Maybe they have a little bit of pre-performance anxiety and trying to maybe they're thinking about the future too much about their playing career. Anything that comes to mind of tricks that you've used in the past?
That's a great question, dude. That is one of my only regrets that I never was able to solve when I was playing. When I was playing, I had tons of stress and nerves and anxiety, especially on defense, not so much on offense. So, I would just, you make an error, you lose all your confidence, and you're like, dude, don't hit me the ball again. Friggin', this is embarrassing. So, yeah, that was just something I always battled with my whole career. And it was tough. It was very tough. And it's weird. In business, I don't deal with it at all. Like, I go on stage, I don't care. There's no nerves. I make a video. I got a famous, none of it phases me at all. But the moment the stats count for a sport, it's like, oh, dude, here we go. Nerves. So I would say, man, I would like to think if I had to go, compete today, it'd be different. And I think we'll see, because I'm going to compete in some golf tournaments. So maybe we'll see if my nerves come back in that way. But I would like to think I'm a lot more emotionally prepared today, just because I've been through life now, and I realize that putting all this pressure on yourself never makes it well. So what my advice would be is this. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself when I was younger because, I'm getting to the big leagues is this end all be all. And if I don't, then I'm a complete failure. I don't know what I'm going to do if I fail and I don't make it. I have no backup plan. And so when you have that amount of pressure on yourself, it's tough. Whereas today I would say, hey, this is great. I'm playing baseball. I'm playing against the best people in the world. I got a chance to get to the big leagues. Like, this is an amazing opportunity. I'm going to just enjoy the moment. And if I don't make it, the worst case is I don't make it. My life's still going to be fine. And if I would have taken that mindset and had more faith in whatever was going to happen next, I would have played a lot different, especially today. Like, if I would have known what I would become after baseball, clearly I would have been way less stressed about baseball. I would have been like, oh, bro, don't worry. My real thing is after this. I'm just going to enjoy this. So, yeah, I think we need to just take it less serious and you'll do better.
A little perspective switch right there. Love it. Ryan, thank you very much for the time. I know you're a busy guy. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for checking out this video here on the channel. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video if you found it useful, and subscribe and click that notification bell so you're notified each new video. Also, we got some more videos up there, some more content. If you're interested, be sure to click it and check it out. Thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time here on the channel.